Good evening and welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday. My name is Michelle Williams. I go by the Ignited Teacher here on Twitter and all of my social media channels. If you're new to Teaching Tip Tuesday, what I do here on Teaching Tip Tuesday is share teaching tips for high needs teachers who work in maybe urban settings, who work with ELL populations, or just working with um, students who are below grade level. So let's go ahead and get started. If let me make sure. What I do here I have to make sure that my um, my volume is working because sometimes technology can be iffy. So that's let me go ahead. Ooh, can't see that. All right. So tonight's topic is, and you probably see my question, are you only using raw data to make instructional decisions? So before we get started with this, if you would tweet it to a teacher, tweet it to your administrators, tweet it to your instructional leaders, or anyone who is looking at student data and saying teachers need to do this or making any type of adjustments based on this raw data. And when I talk about raw data, I'm talking about data just with numbers. And most of them, people, they'll call it quantitative data. And that I'm sharing this tonight because we are in test prep mode and it's high stakes testing, and we have teachers and administrators and district personnel making decisions and assumptions based on raw data. Now, I know a lot of teachers and administrators have these data digs, and they actually are bringing teachers in, and we get grilled over and over again off of numbers. But one of the things that I notice that is always left out of the conversation is, guess what? Student work. Nobody has ever asked me to bring student work samples, ever. They've never asked me to bring student work samples. Um, and why, I don't know. Because it's something that I think is important because it brings a different, I want to say, what's the word I'm looking for? It brings a different conversation to the table. So it goes from what is the teacher doing to how can we help this student. So that's what I'm talking about tonight is, are you using student work? And when you have conversations around student work, what are we supposed to be talking about? Now, I teach in Texas, and in Texas, we're getting ready for STAR testing. I teach fifth grade. Fifth grade, fifth grade teachers in Texas, we have to really actually teach 9 months of curriculum in 6 months. And it's so unfair. It really is. It's unfair to the children, it's unfair to teachers because we're at a different pace, and children need time. I promise you, if my students had 2 more months like the other students had, I would have a higher percentage. And I think that I'm probably one of the high performing teachers in my cohort of schools, but my students don't have time. And that's why I tend to get in trouble because I feel like my students need more time, and my instructional time is really, really important. So we're talking about student work. So if you're an administrator and you're watching this, there are some things that you should ask your teachers to bring to the table. And one of those things is student work. Now, what conversation should you be having? Well, a lot of administrators, when they tell teachers, "Oh, we're going to have data digs," it's like, "What are you doing?" But we never look at student work and say, "Okay, what are some instructional strategies that we can put in place to help?" Because, truth be told, if we're having a data dig, teachers should not be coming out looking and feeling like, oh, they did something wrong, because data digs are for you to look at data, analyze it, and come up with some instructional strategies. That's why they happen. So I teach math, and this is one of my students' work. If you can see, I teach fifth grade. Now, when I analyze student work, I look for instructional strategies. And really there's three things that I look for. I look for, are they using a problem solving strategy? Can I logically follow what they have done? Because I tell my students that I should be able to see their thinking and what they're doing. Because if I can't see their thinking, then I cannot help them and solve a problem. So, I'm going to give you an example. Here is my students' work. So, it's kind of light. So, up here in this problem, it is a conversion problem. So, when I'm looking at this problem, I'm saying, okay, first of all, there's no strategy. There's none. So, what I did is I teach my students to use a math tool. He didn't use a math tool. He should have chosen to use the table. And because my students are in fifth grade, sixth grade, they'll be introduced to proportional reasoning. And I like the table a lot better because it helps the students actually see, and I teach multiplicative patterns. It helps them to see what they are doing and how they can find the answer. And it lends itself to them actually thinking algebraically, because I have to teach my students how to write expressions in terms of X and Y. So that's why I like this strategy. So I would have to go back, and if I was going to a data dig, I would know that one of the reasons why my students are struggling, and I looked at all of them, this is just one student's work. I looked at all of their work, and they are struggling with that skill because there's no strategy at all. Now, if you look at this problem down here, this is my student's work. Now, with this is simplifying expressions and its order of operation. Now, this student did an excellent job of solving this problem. However, there's errors. And the problem is it's an error on not even the top part where it's more difficult. It's an error at the bottom part. So those are conversations that should be had when we're talking about making instructional decisions. Raw data only gives you a small part of what's going on in a classroom. So that's why when administrators and district personnel are saying, well, what are you going to do? Well, principals should know what instructional issues the students are having. And we never have conversations around student work. And I know for me, I have been teaching 18 years. And since I left Louisiana as a tap master teacher, where it was standard protocol to look at student work, in Texas, we never look at student work and come up with instructional strategies. So raw data, like I said, only is going to tell you, okay, pass or fail. It's not looking into that other piece, and it doesn't answer the question, what instructional strategy could a teacher use, or it does not lend itself to what instructional support the teacher needs. Because even as a 18-year veteran teacher, sometimes people see stuff from a different lens. But if we're not talking about student work and errors that they're making, then the support that teachers like myself need, or conversations that need to be had around supporting students and teachers, will never happen if you're focusing on, oh, did they pass or fail? You have to look at what the students are doing. And I know a lot of teachers are under the gun because they're saying, well, they're blaming me. Well, here's my suggestion to teachers. If you have are going to a data dig and you know that your feet are being put to the fire, bring your student work. Don't leave your student work. You present the instructional strategies that you have been teaching your students, and let it speak to your data. Let it gives the whole picture. So when we go to data digs on my fifth grade team, I tell them, I say, bring your student work, because your student work is going to give you the full picture of what is happening. So that's all I have for Teaching Tip Tuesday. If you have some teachers, administrators, tag them, and hopefully this will help you understand the importance of analyzing student work, because, like I said, it changes the focus of let's crucify the teacher to how can we support these teachers? What additional instructional strategies are needed? Is it an ineffective instructional strategy, or can we tweak the strategy to make it a little better at your data dig meeting? So I will see you all next week on Teaching Tip Tuesday. If you're new here, I am here on Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And like I said before, tag a teacher, tweet it to them, add mention them, and tell them to if they have any questions, definitely tweet to me, message me, private DM me. I'm on all social media. So you all have a good evening, and I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.